Have you ever walked into a city in the United States and suddenly felt something familiar, something warm, something Filipino? Maybe it was the smell of garlic rice drifting down a busy street. Maybe it was the echo of laughter from titas sharing chismis in front of a bakery. Or maybe it was a Jollibee in the middle of a suburban neighborhood, its line wrapping around the building like a coiled snake. Whatever it was, you just experienced the Filipino presence in America. And today, that presence is not just growing, it's transforming cities. Not quietly, not slowly, but in a wave so powerful that entire neighborhoods, suburbs, and even major cities now feel like tiny extensions of home. This is the story of Filipinos in America, the struggles, the sacrifices, the triumphs, and the cities that have become Filipino strongholds. Let's start our journey. Chicago, a city of deep dish pizza, jazz, skyscrapers, and an unexpectedly massive Filipino heartbeat. Walk through Chicago long enough, and you're going to smell it before you see it. The scent of lumpia frying in the back of a small family restaurant. The buttery aroma of ensaymada from a local bakery. The sweet tang of adobo simmering in someone's apartment window. Chicago didn't become a Filipino hub overnight. It began with a wave of brave Filipinos arriving with only a suitcase, a nursing degree, and a dream. The hospitals here became the first home for many. Filipino nurses didn't just fill jobs, they became the pulse of the medical system. Patients would tell stories of Filipino nurses who treated them not just with skill, but with the kind of compassion you only find in a Filipino household. And outside the hospitals, Chicago built a culture. Filipino families planted roots. Children grew up bilingual. Festivals were born. Fiesta Pinoy became a tradition. Karaoke battles, Tito bragging rights, pancit trays disappearing in minutes. But Chicago is more than numbers. It's a feeling of a community that arrived with nothing and built a home piece by piece. A bright morning in Southern California. The smell of warm pandesal drifting through apartment windows. A nurse walking home from a night shift hears music. Someone is blasting OPM in the parking lot. Children laugh in Tagalog. This is Riverside San Bernardino. Affordable homes, opportunity. Warm weather, a community that grows stronger every year. Filipinos came here because Los Angeles became expensive, too expensive. So thousands moved east, carrying their culture with them. Seafood City became the heartbeat. On weekends, you can't even find parking. Inside, titas crowd around the Bangus display like warriors preparing for battle. Filipino restaurants fill the streets. Sisig sizzling on plates. Halo halo piled with ice and ube. Trays of palabok disappearing fast. Filipino nurses, engineers, caregivers, students, they all gather here. They build friendships, they build families, they build futures. Riverside isn't just growing. It's becoming one of the most concentrated Filipino areas in all of America. Seattle is rain, coffee, clouds, and a Filipino presence so deep, it's woven into the city's history. Walk through Beacon Hill, White Center, or South Seattle, you're going to hear Tagalog. You're going to see Filipino stores. You're going to find lumpia in lunchboxes everywhere. Filipinos didn't come here recently. They've been here for generations. Long before many people realized, early Filipino migrants came looking for work in canneries, lumber mills, and farms. They endured freezing conditions, low pay, and long hours. But they didn't break. Instead, they built. They formed organizations, churches, community centers. They opened small restaurants that became pillars of neighborhoods. And then came the nurses, tech workers, and entrepreneurs. Now, Seattle thrives partly because of Filipinos, from medical institutions to the booming tech scene. In Seattle, Filipino culture is not preserved. It is alive. San Jose, the heartbeat of Silicon Valley. The land of startups, coding geniuses, and tech giants. What most people don't know is this: Filipinos are everywhere behind the scenes. Engineers designing hardware, developers writing code, entrepreneurs pitching million-dollar ideas, nurses supporting the growing population, families building generational wealth. San Jose became a magnet for ambitious Filipino immigrants. Those who wanted stability, opportunity, and financial growth found it here. Filipino restaurants serve meals that taste like childhood. Community centers hold cultural events that keep traditions alive. Everywhere you look, Filipinos are shaping the future of the tech world. This city isn't just a place to work. It's a launchpad for the next generation of Filipino innovators. Las Vegas, the bright lights, the casinos, the tourists, the chaos. But beneath the glitz lies a secret, a massive Filipino workforce that keeps the city alive. Housekeeping departments filled with Filipinos. Hotel kitchens, Filipinos everywhere. Casino staff, Filipinos running the show. Inside neighborhoods, the Filipino presence is even stronger. Filipino bakeries sell fresh pandesal. Filipino restaurants serve sinigang and lechon. Filipino gatherings explode with laughter, karaoke, and overflowing food. Vegas became a sanctuary, a place where Filipinos could start fresh, build careers, and live comfortably. And today, it feels like a second Manila wearing neon lights. San Diego is sunshine, beaches, palm trees, and one of the most vibrant Filipino hubs in the entire country. National City alone feels like home. Jollibee, Red Ribbon, Seafood City, Filipino bakeries. Aunties arguing about the sale price of bangus. Lolas buying ingredients for adobo. Many Filipinos arrived here through the U.S. Navy, a path that defined the community. From service members to their families, Filipinos built lives, neighborhoods, and traditions. Today, San Diego thrives with Filipino teachers, nurses, entrepreneurs, mechanics, students, and creatives. This is a city where Filipino culture is both preserved and celebrated. Honolulu is paradise, but it's also something else, a Filipino stronghold in the middle of the ocean. Everywhere you go, you'll find Filipino culture, a bakery selling freshly baked pandesal, a vendor serving taho on the sidewalk, a tita wearing her fancy slippers for no reason, families gathering for barbecues that taste like home. Filipinos have been here for over a century, from plantation workers to leaders in healthcare, education, business, and government. Hawaii didn't just accept Filipino culture, it adopted it. Even the local language absorbed Tagalog words. Honolulu isn't just diverse, it's Filipino to its core. New York is chaos. Taxi horns, crowded sidewalks, lights that never turn off. But Filipinos are everywhere. In hospitals on Broadway and Wall Street, offices, in subways, in bodegas. The Filipino presence is loud and proud. Food spots serve lechon, halo, ube, everything. There's even a Filipino parade that shuts down Manhattan. Filipinos came here for dreams and turned those dreams into careers, businesses, and communities. New York isn't easy, but Filipinos thrive where others struggle. San Francisco, Daly City, Soma. The Filipino Cultural District. Filipinos have been here for generations. They came as laborers, service workers, students, and veterans. They built strong communities. They raised families. They opened businesses. They created festivals that still stand today. If you ride public transport in Daly City, someone is definitely FaceTiming their family back home at full volume. It's part of the charm. Filipinos shaped San Francisco's cultural landscape, and their legacy continues to grow. Los Angeles is the Filipino giant. Filipinos everywhere, historic Filipino town. Eagle Rock, Carson. West Covina, Glendale. Panorama City. Half the restaurants, half the businesses, half the cultural events. Filipinos touch them all. LA is diversity, opportunity, entertainment, and endless food. And Filipino culture fits perfectly into that world. Here, Filipinos don't just live. They thrive, they influence, they inspire. LA is home. Houston, a city growing faster than ever, and Filipinos are right in the center of that growth. Why Houston? Jobs, affordable homes, a warm climate that reminds many of the Philippines, massive healthcare networks, a booming energy industry. Filipino nurses, engineers, teachers, oil and gas professionals, they're everywhere. Houston Filipino restaurants are exploding in number. Cultural festivals grow bigger every year. Entire suburbs now feel like Filipino enclaves. Houston is quickly becoming one of the most important Filipino cities in the South. Phoenix hot, dry desert as far as the eye can see. But surprisingly, Filipino families love it here. Affordable homes, stable jobs, quiet neighborhoods, new opportunities. Filipino nurses fill hospitals. Filipino families fill suburban communities. Filipino restaurants are growing fast. Phoenix may look like a desert, but the Filipino community here is blooming. Tampa's beaches, sunshine, and calm waters. But beneath the tourist spots lies a growing Filipino community. Filipino nurses, families, and retirees are choosing Tampa for its affordability and peace. Bakeries, restaurants, community centers, church gatherings. They all showcase that the Filipino identity is spreading into Florida's Gulf Coast. Tampa is becoming a quiet Filipino gem. Virginia Beach isn't just beaches. It's a military hub, and Filipinos have been part of that story for decades. Filipino Navy families settled here, built homes, opened restaurants, and created a community that feels like a big extended family. Filipino influence is everywhere, from schools to churches to local businesses to cultural events. This is the East Coast's Filipino military capital. Detroit may have faced decline, but the Filipino community became part of the rebuilding. Suburbs like Troy, Sterling Heights, and Warren are hotspots for Filipino families. Filipinos work in hospitals, automotive companies, engineering firms, and manufacturing. They helped breathe life back into communities that desperately needed it. Detroit's Filipino population is small but mighty, reliable, skilled, and dedicated. Minnesota is cold, but the Filipino presence is warm and welcoming. Minneapolis, St. Paul, and nearby towns host Filipino cultural events, churches, and gatherings. Filipinos work in tech, healthcare, and corporate sectors. Many families choose Minnesota for its peaceful environment, high quality of life, and strong schooling systems. Minnesota shows that Filipinos don't just settle, they thrive in unexpected places. Filipinos in the nation's capital are influential, educated, and active. They work in government, military, research, international organizations, and policy making. Filipino diplomats, aides, analysts, and professionals shape decisions that affect both America and the Philippines. The Filipino community in D.C. is small in number, but large in power. Boston is a city of students, doctors, researchers, and top universities. Filipinos here are scholars, professors, medical professionals, and students pushing boundaries in science and tech. Filipino families in Boston value education deeply, and the city rewards them with opportunity. Boston's Filipino presence is not flashy, it is brilliant. From coast to coast, from big cities to quiet suburbs, from tropical beaches to frozen mountains, Filipinos are everywhere. They nurse the sick, they build businesses, they raise families, they serve in the military, they innovate in tech, they shape culture, they enrich America. Filipinos didn't just migrate. They transformed, they contributed, they uplifted. They built communities that feel like home, no matter the city. Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Seattle, San Diego, Honolulu, Boston, New York. The Filipino presence is undeniable. The Filipino wave is not slowing down. It is growing stronger, bigger, brighter. This is not just a story of migration. It is a story of identity, resilience, unity, and triumph. To understand why Filipinos are transforming cities across America, you must understand the heart of the Filipino. Filipinos don't migrate alone. They bring their stories. They bring their culture. They bring their family, even when their family is thousands of miles away. Wherever Filipinos go, they build a church, a sari-sari store, a churro-churro eatery, a community center, a neighborhood where everyone calls each other ate, kuya, tita, tito. Filipinos create homes, not just houses. They create belonging, not just residency. They create stability, not just temporary living. When the Filipino arrives in a new city, others follow. Not because they are running from something, but because they are running toward a future. And that future is always rooted in community. Look at any industry in America, and you will find Filipinos working quietly, consistently, passionately. Hospitals rely on Filipino nurses. Hotels rely on Filipino staff. Tech companies rely on Filipino developers. The military relies on Filipino service members. Education systems rely on Filipino teachers. Cities rely on Filipino essential workers. Filipinos show up, they work hard, they sacrifice. They give their best always. Filipinos don't just fill roles, they elevate them. This work ethic is why Filipinos climb quickly, from entry-level roles to supervisors, managers, directors, entrepreneurs. Filipinos rise not by pushing others aside, but by lifting communities along with them. Filipinos have a superpower, resilience. It shows in every story. A nurse who arrives with only one suitcase and becomes the head of her department. A caregiver who starts with night shifts and later buys her first home in America. A veteran who spends decades serving in the military and sends their kids to college debt-free. A Filipino family who arrives in a foreign city and within a few years creates a thriving business that feeds an entire community. These stories are not rare, they are everywhere. Filipinos turn hardship into strength, struggle into opportunity, sacrifice into success. There is one thing that drives the Filipino journey: family. Filipinos don't work for themselves. They work for their children. They work for their parents. They work for their siblings. They work for the next generation. A nurse sends money back home. A father works extra shifts. A mother takes on 2 jobs. A student pushes through school to make family proud. Filipinos succeed because they never forget who they are working for. Every achievement is shared. Every milestone is a family celebration. Every victory belongs to everyone. This is why Filipino cities keep growing. It's not migration, it's generational movement. A cycle of love that spans oceans. Walk into any Filipino-dominated city and you'll notice something interesting. The culture doesn't fade, it becomes louder. Food becomes more authentic. Dances become more frequent. Festivals become bigger. Music becomes a soundtrack of identity. Filipinos bring adobo, sinigang, pancit, karaoke, fiestas, barbecues, tinikling, OPM, laughter, hospitality, warmth. Culture is not just preserved, it is shared with the world. Americans crave halo. They line up for lechon. They learn Tagalog phrases. They attend Filipino events. They fall in love with Filipino humor and joy. Filipino culture has become universal, a gift to every city touched by the Filipino wave. In cities across America, Filipino kids are growing up bilingual, multicultural, and confident. They carry 2 homelands in their hearts, the United States and the Philippines. They know adobo and hamburgers. They know Tagalog and English. They know fiestas and 4th of July. They know Lola's stories and American school life. These children are becoming doctors, engineers, scientists, entrepreneurs, artists, influencers, creators, leaders. They are the future. They are the bridge between cultures. And they are the reason Filipino cities will continue growing for generations. The Filipino presence does more than shape neighborhoods, it shapes economies. Filipino support, restaurants, grocery stores, remittance businesses, bank schools, churches, medical centers, real estate markets, local shops. Filipinos buy homes. They pay taxes, they open businesses, they stimulate growth, they uplift entire neighborhoods. In many cities, Filipinos are a major economic engine, a quiet force that strengthens the local economy while building futures for their families. Filipinos don't move randomly. They choose cities based on 6 powerful reasons. Opportunity: jobs in healthcare, tech, hospitality, business, education. Community: a place where fellow Filipinos already live. Affordability: cities where raising a family is possible. Climate: warm or manageable weather. Schools: places where children can thrive academically. Safety: neighborhoods where families feel comfortable. This is why cities like Houston, Las Vegas, Riverside, Seattle, Honolulu, and Los Angeles continue to attract Filipino families. They offer stability. They offer growth. They offer belonging. There is one city growing faster than almost any other for Filipinos. A city many people underestimate: Houston. Affordable homes, thriving industries, massive healthcare systems, expanding suburbs, warm climate. Filipino restaurants are opening at record speed. Filipino families are moving in every month. Churches and cultural organizations are growing. Houston is on track to become the next major Filipino capital of America, second only to Los Angeles. Filipinos didn't come to America to take over cities. They came to build futures. They came to find opportunity. They came to uplift their families. But in doing so, they transformed the country. They filled cities with life, culture, and community. They revitalized neighborhoods. They strengthened industries. They brought joy where there was emptiness. They brought community where there was isolation. This is not a story of migration. This is a story of influence, a story of unity, a story of a people who carry home in their hearts and rebuild it wherever they go. Filipinos didn't just move to America. They helped shape America. And the Filipino wave? It's still rising, still growing, still spreading across states, suburbs, and cities. Filipinos are not the future of America. They are already a vital part of its present.